Hey guys, my name is Michael, and on this channel I talk about life as a professional artist. Today I'm going to talk to you about the brutal truth of why your art probably isn't good enough to be in a gallery. So in the past, I have worked as a gallery talent scout, where I would go and I would find artists for galleries to exhibit, and I also own an art publishing company. And I want to give kind of the brutal truth here. At least with my company, we exhibit about and we publish about 1% of the people that submit, even actually less. And so it's super exclusive. And the biggest reason why people kind of don't get accepted, I make it so that they have to do it the right way. So like, it's not that they ever like do things the wrong way. It's simply that their art isn't good enough. And I want to talk about like why those 99% of people aren't good enough. And I know this is like kind of like a touchy subject, because like what makes art good is really subjective, but also like I am a critic and I am a gatekeeper, whether I like it or not, and whether you guys like it or not. So let's talk about why one person gets accepted and the other person doesn't. So what makes a work of art good? Well, the first thing is making sure that it's appropriate for the venue that it's going in. So if it's in a gallery, it has to be work that sells. I know that that's like kind of like bullcrap or whatever, but the reality is 99% of the work that goes into galleries is work that sells, because galleries make their money by selling art. If you want to showcase your work that is not for sale, that's totally fine. Like there are lots of avenues for that. There's museums, there's grants, there's public spaces, you can rent out your own space, there's YouTube, there's social media. There's so many amazing spaces for that kind of work, and I make a lot of that kind of work. But let's say that you really want to be in a gallery. Well, you need to make work that can sell. And so first off, I would think about the act of selling it in mind when you're making it. So that means that you have to keep profit margins in mind, and really treat it like a business and a product. So, I make this for this amount of money, this is how much it costs to produce, this is how much the gallery is going to take, and this is what I have to sell it for, and I have a feeling that my audience is going to reasonably buy it at that price. So, if that all seems overwhelming for you, you're probably not good enough to be in a gallery. You're not ready. So you've done that, and then you've made work that can be sold. So usually this is work that goes on the wall, because people want to buy work that goes on the wall unless you're at the ultra high end, which if you've never had a gallery exhibition, you're not at the ultra high end. Yeah. You've made work that is reasonably sized, reasonably priced, has a good profit of margin, and where do you go from here? So the next thing is you have to have a body of work. You have to have a whole collection of work around a theme that has an interesting story, and then you have to describe and detail that body of work. You have to talk about your process. You have to talk about, what inspired you. You have to talk about yourself and your career. And so that gives people who buy your work some outlet into your work. And usually depending upon the scale of exhibition, this could be anything from just like a piece of paper taped to the wall, or a flyer that people go and read about your work, or at the high end they'll make like fine hardcover books that go with the exhibitions that really talk about the work in depth. But at the very least, you need to have like a way to communicate to the audience what this body of work is about and why they should care about it. So, and it also will help, whenever they try to resell the work, to have that information, so that way when they resell it, they can communicate that with other people. Or even just when people go and visit their house, they'll be able to say, oh, this is the artist's work, and that way they're not talking for you, because whenever someone talks for you about your art, they're going to talk wrong. So I think it's really important as artists to talk for yourself. The next thing is just knowing that it's up to like a competent level of skill. And I actually think that a lot of people, this is kind of where a lot of people trip up. So, I get a lot of submissions from MFA graduates who make work that is honestly pretty well done. And so I think that that's not the biggest issue. If you've gone your education, have been making art for a few years, and you really like do it the best that it can be done, then it's at a decent enough skill. So where do you go from there? Why is it that we have hundreds of people that are MFA graduates that submit to our publications or exhibitions, but only less than 1% of them get accepted? It's because I, as the person looking at it, need to feel like I've gained something from looking at it. And this is the trickiest one. And part of it's difficult because I've literally looked at like millions of work of art in my time. I read over 400 books last year just for my business, just screening them, And so how are you going to go and have something that stands out in such a sea of thousands and thousands of art? You're being compared against every artist that I've ever seen before, every artist that the gallery owner has ever seen before. And that's really what makes, your art something special, having that, and I can't give that to you, really. I can talk to you about, having really good taste and having a prepared description that you can really describe exactly what your work's about and your process, so that people can understand what you're doing if you're doing something out there. Because if you're doing something out there, they're not gonna know what it is. And that's the biggest thing. So I know that that's like not the nicest answer that you want to do, but make sure that you have all the other ones controlled, because like those are the options that you can't control. You can't control that it's good enough. You can't control that you have a body of work, that you can control that the work can sell. You can control that the work, everything is, all the details are finished. You have the description, you have the author bio, you have the frames, you have the whatevers, and then the next step is not in your control, and that's just making sure that the work is good enough and has the right taste. And that's where you're going to see lots and lots of rejection. So I would say for you is just focus on making the best art that you possibly can and submitting to as many people as possible. So that gives you a good idea of what you can control and what you can't control. And if you kind of disagree with me and you think that you have really good taste, you need to do a good job of selling that to me, because I might not have the same taste as you, but honestly, I've had authors, submit work that I wasn't super into, but wrote something amazing about it and really let me get into their brain and understand what they're doing, and that allowed me to see the art through their eyes, and they got accepted because of it, even though when I looked at it, I wasn't really into it. And so I think that that's, you can make other people share your taste. Those are my best tips. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell. I have new content coming out all the time. I hope you have a wonderful day.